Welcome to the Warp. In this video, I'm going to be talking about aliens that are nobody's favorite aliens. Every once in a while, somebody asks me, what are the top 10 worst aliens, or I guess bottom 10, or somebody is looking to remove some aliens from the entire collection of 200 plus aliens because for whatever reason, their storage solution can't accommodate all of the aliens. I say get more creative so you don't have to get rid of anything, but that's up to you. So I've assembled 10 aliens that, for me, they're actually the 10 aliens that I least enjoy playing. So they're not necessarily removed from my set, although that said, there's some kind of asterisks there, which you'll understand in a minute. I will start off, though, with two aliens that I had removed from my set, and that would be Grumpus and Brute from Cosmic Storm. Brute because it's just so overpowered that it was unplayable, in my opinion. It was just, I didn't think there was a good reason to have it in there. And I'm going to talk about what this alien does and why I got rid of it. And Grumpus because it really was kind of a stinker. Not a very good alien. Nobody enjoyed playing it. Nobody wanted to choose it. So why have it in the set? Cosmic Odyssey includes 12 alternate timeline aliens, alt-timeline aliens that are actually new versions of aliens. So there's a new version of Grumpus that is in my set, and I like that alien quite a bit. It's a very good, strong alien. There's a new version of Brute as well that's actually less strong, but that makes it better. And a couple of the aliens that are on the bottom 10 list here also have alt versions. And so with all of the alt versions, with the exception of Demon, I have actually replaced the originals. So the originals are out and the alt versions are the ones that are in. So that's how it works. So let's talk about Brute and why it had to go. The power to threaten as a main player or ally. So gets to use its ability quite a bit. After alliances are formed, you may use this power to threaten one player on the opposing side. That player must either allow you to look at their hand of cards and take one card of your choice, or remove all of their ships from the encounter and returning to their colonies. And then it explains that if you can remove a main player that's opposing you, and the encounter continues with 0 of their ships. So Brute had a little too much going on. The fact, of course, that it could be fire as a main player or ally, that made it already probably a little too powerful. But my big objection was that it does essentially what the mind does, which is look at an entire player's hand. And in this case, in fact, Brute here now has more flexibility because mine can only look at a main player's hand. Here they can look at an ally's hand as well. But to exacerbate that, they also get to take a card, and not just any card. Oh, actually, yes, any card, not just a card at random, but they can take any card. They can take the best card from their hand, or they can just boot them out of the encounter, which is also a very powerful effect. So that's why I had to remove it. And the new Brute is a better version of it. Grumpus, on the other hand, you have the power to grump. Whenever one of your colonies is removed from any planet, use this power. At the end of the current phase, every other player who has a colony on that planet must send one of their ships from that planet to the warp. Okay, so whoop-de-doo. You know, it's working on your home colonies, and you don't lose your power for having too few home colonies. All right, so here it's an alien. It's one of those aliens where you get something for losing, which are not my favorite aliens. I tend to not prefer those aliens. An alien like Hacker almost made my list. It's a little bit better in that you are really getting to get something good for losing. But here, you know, it's not going to affect your foreign colonies hardly ever. So that's not going to be a big deal. And players know that they can attack you and have more ships. And then, yeah, they'll lose one ship once they boot you off there. You know, okay, who cares? So those had to go. So let's look at the other 10 aliens on the list. Starting with number 10, also from Cosmic Storm, is Bulwark. And for me, it's just kind of a weaker version of Zombie, and that's the main reason. It's not that interesting to me. I'd rather play Zombie. I'd rather play the original Zombie. Interestingly, Zombie is one of the aliens that has an alt timeline version, so the one in Cosmic Odyssey, in my opinion, is much better than the one that's in the base game, which is much better than Bulwark. So Bulwark, power of resilience, as the offense or an ally, whenever you would lose ships to the warp that are involved in an encounter, uses power to send only one of the involved ships to the warp. The other ones are returned to your colonies. And as the defense, when you would lose ships to the warp that are involved in the encounter, send only one of the involved ships to the warp. The other ones remain on the colony. So it's okay. All right, you're losing fewer ships, but again, it's just not that interesting. So I hardly ever choose Bulwark, but it's still in my set. It's not a bad alien. It's just not as good as the one that it's almost exactly like. So that's number 10. So number 9 is Gorgon. And Gorgon is from Cosmic Alliance, and it was originally a Mayfair alien. Power to petrify. When another player attempts to move any ships from one or more of your home planets or that are coexisting on any planet with your ships, uses powers. Mandatory. That player must either leave those ships where they are or send them to the warp. And that wording there is a little bit hinky. I think it has created some unintended consequences. Your own ships are never sent to the warp as a result of your power. You do not lose your power for having too few home colonies. So Gorgon creates a state where the ships are frozen. You're able to lock down other people's ships. And again, it's not bad. It's an interesting, I like that it is a unique effect. It's very different from all the other aliens. It's just, for me, it doesn't fit my play style. It's not an alien that I would ever choose unless, it was between that and Bulwark. I think that's the only time. Well, no, maybe not. I would choose Bulwark over that. It's the others on this list that I would choose Gorgon over. So, yeah, it just doesn't thrill me that much. I would much rather have a more active alien. Next one on our list is Gorilla. Gorilla is from Cosmic Incursion, so one of the first expansions. It's one of those, if you lose something, here's what happens. So as a main player, after you lose an encounter, uses power to weaken your opponent and each of their allies. Each player you weaken loses all but one of their ships in the encounter to the warp. So it's a thumb in the eye to the players who've just whooped your butt. And you've lost all of your ships in the encounter, and they're going to lose some ships as well. It's kind of not as an effective vacuum in many ways. It kind of splits the difference. So it's not that much more interesting than vacuum. You can kind of leverage it into, let's make a deal every once in a while, although you can do that with vacuum as well. So that, for me, Gorilla just doesn't quite cut it. The next one from Cosmic Alliance is Bandit. And again, not a bad alien. In fact, I know a lot of people who really like Bandit. So let's take a look. Power to take a spin. At the start of each player's turn, including your own, uses power to reveal the top 3 cards of the encounter deck. If all 3 revealed cards are different types, negotiate, attack, reinforcement, etc., then discard a card of your choice from your hand. If 2 of the revealed cards are the same type, you may add any one of the revealed 3 cards to your hand. And if all 3 revealed cards are the same type, you may add any or all of the revealed cards to your hand, and all other players must discard all cards of that type from their hands. So, for me, this seems less like an alien power and more like some other game effect that happens a lot. So you're doing your own thing. It doesn't really, I guess it can affect the other players, of course, if you get the jackpot there. But it's just, again, it's not my style of alien that I enjoy playing. So it's something that is a pretty good effect. I wouldn't mind like having a moon or a space station or something that gave me that effect. But as an alien power, I just don't really like it that much. All right, from Cosmic Conflict, we have the original Sadist. And Sadist is one of our alt timeline aliens. So the new Sadist in Odyssey is a better version of this Sadist, and I'll explain why. The original Sadist, power to inflict pain. At the start of any player's regroup phase, before the offense retrieves a ship from the warp, uses power to win the game if all other players have lost or lost at least 8 ships. And lost includes ships in the warp, removed from the game, or captured by other players. So in order to win the game as Sadist, you know, everyone else needs to be in pretty dire straits in order to have 8 of their ships all in the warp at the same time. It's just something that doesn't happen that often. That's the problem. And the new Sadist, once a player hits that threshold, you mark basically their colony counter with a token so that they've hit it. It doesn't matter at that point if they get all their ships out of the warp. You know, they have the scarlet letter, so they're screwed for the rest of the game in terms of there's nothing they can do to stop you from winning once you have marked everyone that way. Furthermore, when you are involved in the encounter with the new Sadist, if players only lose a couple of ships, you force them to lose one more. So it's got kind of like a little bit of guerrilla thing going on, but it's more useful because it's driving you towards that win. All right. From Cosmic Alliance, we have Lightning. And Lightning is another example of an alien that's actually pretty decent. Just doesn't fit my playstyle. Power of speed. Each time any other player takes a second encounter during their turn, uses power to add a cosmic token to the sheet. After the end of any encounter, even your own, you may discard 3 tokens from the sheet to immediately have 1 encounter. Afterwards, play resumes. Alternately, at the start of a player's second encounter, you may discard 2 tokens to immediately end the encounter. So this is one where you can potentially have more encounters, especially the longer the game goes on. Or you can maybe stifle somebody else from having their second encounter at a slightly less cost of the cosmic tokens. It's a good effect. It's an interesting, unique alien. There's really nothing else quite like that, which I do like. I appreciate the design. I like having it in the set. It's not an alien that I would choose to play. I've played it a few times. I didn't really enjoy it that much. It's kind of in the same, you know, ballpark as Machine, who can have multiple encounters. Machine is not on this list, but it's sort of at the bottom of all the aliens. I know, like, Tom Vassell hates Machine so much that he physically tore it up, which is, for me, you know, I almost screamed like a schoolgirl when I saw that happen. I was like, no! But anyway, that's fine. Machine's still in my set. It's still an alien that I would play. I like it a little bit more than Lightning, but I can understand why some people don't really like aliens like that. Not for me, it's not that it prolongs the game. I don't have a problem with that. Anyway, that's kind of how I feel about that. All right, we're back to Cosmic Storm here with Worm. And Worm was my #1 least favorite alien from the Eon edition. It was an alien. I remember the first time I drew it, I didn't know what it did. I looked at the art. I was like, oh, awesome, Worm, great, I can't wait. And I did not enjoy that alien. And this is an improved version of Worm. It still doesn't quite do it for me. So let's look at this one. That's game setup. You can distribute your ships among your planets however you like, as long as you have at least 1. So you can say, all right, this planet has got 8 ships, and these guys have 2. And why? Well, you'll see. Power to tunnel. So as a main player, after encounter cards are revealed, you may use this power to re-aim the hyperspace gate anywhere the offense can have a legal encounter against the defense in any system, as long as the offense does not already have a colony there. All offensive and allied ships move along with the gate, and the encounter then continues normally. So in your own system as Worm, you know, they'll point the gate at your planet where you only have 1 ship or no ships or the lowest number of ships. And then once you have revealed the encounter cards, you can be like, oh, I'm going to redirect the hyperspace gate to the planet where I have 8 ships, because now my encounter total is slightly increased. And that's just not that interesting to me. And, you know, yes, you can point it now at somebody's foreign colony, and that's certainly better and a little more interesting. But for me, I mean, you know that Worm can do that. And so, it doesn't really have, you're like, it's no surprise. You're like, okay, great, you moved it. Yeah, I knew you would. And you moved it right where I knew you were going to move it. You know, whoop-de-doo. It doesn't really do it for me. So I don't like Worm. I would definitely not choose it. All right, Cosmic Storm has another one for us. It's Neighbor. And Neighbor almost could have been a good alien, but I just don't think it's that good, and it's not one that I would enjoy playing. So the power of community. As a main player or ally, after the main player on your side reveals an attack card, use his power to add 1 to your total for each ship you have in the targeted system that is not involved in the encounter. And it's a good concept. It's just that, you know, it really only works in systems where there have been a bunch of encounters already, and that doesn't happen a lot in Cosmic Encounter, you know, especially at a larger player count, because, you know, the first encounter was in yellow, and then we're in blue, and then we're in green, and let's say, all right, I've got ships in green, so the next time we're in green, I'll be able to add those, what, 2 ships to the encounter? It doesn't fire that often. It's not that good. It's fine in Neighbor's own system. Okay, that's great, but it's a defense-only power, and defense-only, I think, is not that interesting. I mean, it's not actually defense-only, but it's most effective as defense. So I just don't think Neighbor is interesting enough for me. It's still in the set. There's some people, like I said, that do think it's a pretty good power. It is certainly much better at lower player counts. If you're playing 3-player Cosmic, which I don't play, Neighbor is a much more powerful alien, absolutely. At 4, pretty decent, but I typically play at a minimum of 5. So for me, it just doesn't work. Also from Cosmic Storm, we have Coordinator. So this one, again, I just think it's not as interesting as it could have been. Power to schedule has the offense, so it's an offense only. Already it's got issues. Instead of drawing a card from the Destiny deck, you may use this power to look at the top 3 cards of the Destiny deck. Choose any one of them to be the Destiny card that you have drawn and place the other 2 on the top and or bottom in any order you choose. When you use your power, if there are fewer than 3 cards remaining in the Destiny deck, shuffle the Destiny deck together and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, all right, great. You get to draw 3 cards and go, okay, I'm going to attack this player. And maybe you're like, ooh, if I lose and I know that you're coming up next, I'll put this card there. And so I know that you're attacking green instead. You know, again, it's just not that interesting. I think, again, if I'd been involved in the development of Cosmic Storm, I would have advocated for another iteration on a few of these aliens. Just give them a little bit more teeth. There's some interesting concepts in here, but they just weren't mature enough for my taste. So I still have Coordinator in the set. But yeah, it's, you know, it's number 2 on my list of aliens that I think are just not that interesting for me to play. So you let me know if you think Coordinator is worth the squeeze for that juice. Number 1, also from Cosmic Storm, Sycophant. So Sycophant, it's kind of like TikTok in many ways. And TikTok almost made this list as well. The only reason I didn't is because it was one of the first 2 alt-win aliens. So it has a little bit of a nostalgia effect for me. And like the Fantasy Flight edition was the first edition that included published alt-win aliens, which I love the concept. And I love that there's a good number of them in the game now. But TikTok is one that doesn't really do anything on its own. It doesn't help itself to win by its alternate win condition. It's very passive. So again, it could have been a hazard or a moon effect or something like that. It's just not that interesting as a power. And Sycophant has the same problem. So you're going to put 10 cosmic tokens on the sheet to game setup. And then if you're not a main player, after alliances are formed, you may use this power to flatter one of the main players. Even if you are allied against that player. If the player you flatter wins the encounter or makes a deal, discard 1 token from the sheet. If there are no tokens left, you immediately win the game. So yeah, so you know, flatter somebody, it's a nothing thing. It's like, okay, a nice hair. I'm using my power. If you win, you know, there's a token. It doesn't have any active way to do that. So I've got on most of these aliens that are on this list, not all of them. In my Tabletop Simulator edition of Cosmic Encounter, I have alt-timelined a number of them, and I've given them a little bit more of an active role in their effects, or I've just juiced up the effect itself. So Coordinator is a much better alien in Tabletop Simulator. Sycophant has more at stake and more that it can do in the game there. So that's the deal here. I am kind of sad that a lot of the aliens on this list are from Cosmic Storm. It's still an expansion that I would recommend, but let's be honest, it's the last expansion that I would recommend that you get. So I think you should pick up all of the expansions, get all the other ones first. Storm has 25 aliens in it, so a number of them, half a dozen or so, are not great for me anyway. Some other people may enjoy them more. But there are a lot of aliens in Storm that I do like. I like a lot, and many that I think are just fine. And I love the Space Stations variant that comes with it. So that is why I think that is still an expansion worth getting. But it does have a few dud aliens, including Grumpus and Brute, which are the only two that I had physically removed from my edition of Cosmic Encounter. So there you have it, my bottom 10, plus or minus. Let me know what are the aliens that you really don't like to play, but they're still in your set. That's the thing. I don't really need to know what you've pulled out of your set, but you can tell me. There's no harm in sharing that with the whole world. And then let me know if you had ways that you have revised any of the aliens on this list. I'd be curious to hear in how you have improved some of the aliens that didn't quite do it for you, or any of the other aliens that are not on the list. Let me know. It's carte blanche. Let me know what you think, and thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.